Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And today I have a longtime friend, Craig Latimer, Supervisor of Elections here in Hillsborough County, on the hot seat.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So happy you came back.
It's good to be here.
I enjoy it every time you come because you share so much with us. What's new in the Supervisor of Elections office?
Well, we've got an election coming up, in case you didn't notice.
We do.
We just had a primary election.
Called a midterm?
We have the midterm election. We had the primary, of course, August 26th or 28th, and now we'll have the general election on November 6th. So we're going to have 2 weeks of early voting. 2 weeks before the election, it'll run October 22nd through November 4th. It'll be 12 hours a day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'm really excited to tell you, too, that I've added another early vote site this year, and that is at the University of South Florida. And as a graduate at University of South Florida, I'm really proud to be able to offer that. You know, there's over 60,000 people that impact that campus every day.
Wow.
Between students, staff, faculty, anybody that's out there. Plus you've got Moffitt Hospital that's out there, as well as the USF Medical Center and Morsani Center. So I think it's just going to be
right across the street from the VA.
Be a great opportunity for people that work and are impacted by that campus to be able to take advantage of early voting.
60,000 people. How many people on an average election, both sides, everything, total numbers, would we have?
Well, if you want to go back to, for instance, the 2016 election, we had countywide 609,000 people cast ballots in that election.
Out of a potential, how many do you think?
800,000. So it was about a 72% turnout, 72% turnout.
You know, 800,000. Any idea what the size of this county is? The potential people if they actually registered?
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that. We work very closely with the Planning Commission, and we're able to get projections of how many people 18 and over that are potentially eligible to register. Now, that number has a little caveat to it because we have people that they can report 18 or over that may be working here, living in the area, but they might not be citizens, so they wouldn't be eligible to register to vote. In addition, people that have lost their right to vote through a felony adjudication. So having said all that, we have about 90% of the people that are eligible to be registered to vote are in fact registered.
You've done a good job then.
We work hard at it. You know, one of the things we do is we're in every one of our schools, high schools, at least twice throughout the year, because by law we can pre-register 16 and 17-year-olds. They can't vote until they're 18, but they can register. So we go out and pre-register these students. A lot of them register when they go to get their driver's license. So we average about 4,000 students a year alone that we register in the schools.
Well, given all the people that don't want to register so they don't have to do jury duty, I think that's pretty good.
Well, that's a myth, too.
Oh, it is?
Just because you're registered to vote, that isn't where they get the jury duty points from. No, but if you're driving a car,
hear what he has to say.
If you're driving a car, you're eligible to it. They get it off of the driver's license rolls.
Oh.
Yeah, that was
so
years ago.
You have to quit driving if you want to stay on a jury duty.
Years ago, that was recognized as a true deterrent to people registering to vote because they didn't want to be called for jury duty. And the law was changed, and they now take them from the driver's license rolls.
I'll be darned. I didn't realize that. I think a whole lot of people don't.
Yeah.
With all the people that you have registered, how many voting places do you have across the county at any given election? So,
you know, we're a large county. We're the fourth largest county in this state. Right now, we've got over 840,000 registered voters, and that number will continue to mount up a little bit before the election here. On election day, I have over 270 polling sites throughout the county. Yes, sir. And then for early voting, we now have 20 early vote sites distributed around the county. And early voting has become very popular. In the 2012 election, let's go back to that. In the 2012 election, 31% of our voters that voted by mail, and 31% voted early, for 62% voted prior to election day. In the 2016 election, 31% voted by mail and 40% voted early.
Really?
So it was a real drastic jump that we saw with the early voting.
I'm kind of proud of the fact that I'm 77 years old, And I have never missed an opportunity to vote since I was 21 and registered.
Good for you. You're what's called a super voter, you know?
And well, I think it's important. I really do.
is.
I mean, you may not agree with my choices, but I think it's important that if I want to complain later, that I'm a part of the process.
I do agree with your choice to vote. That's for sure.
It's so important that we get people out and voting. A lot of people say, well, don't let them vote anyway. They're not going to vote the right way. Well, this is a democracy. Well, it's a republic, but we keep talking about it being a democracy. And if people don't do something, don't participate, then things are not good. And with voting by mail, my God, you can't make it any easier, right?
And remember, in Hillsborough County, I pay the return postage. So it doesn't even cost you a dime to put a stamp on it. You don't have to.
And one of the nice, I will admit, something I did on this last election, there's nothing wrong with it, and I won't tell you who it was, but judges. I don't know judges. You get a mailer of this judge or that judge, but I don't know them. So I picked a person that I did know who was in the law. I won't say what position. And I said, tell me which judges you think are doing a good job or would do a good job. Mm-hmm. And he helped me over the phone in my living room as I filled it out. Can't do that in a voting booth.
Well, I was going to tell you, Bill, that's one of the things that I always talk about. I talk about vote from the comfort of your own home with a vote by mail ballot. You know, I'm going to send it to your house. You can take your time. You can research stuff on the internet, or you can phone a friend, which is exactly what you did.
And the other thing too, my wife
take
and
your
I,
time with it.
My wife and I both do it. And so we go down and compare our ballots. Mm-hmm. And it's not always that we agree. It's not necessarily we agree, but we'll go down and maybe she'll say, well, you know, I think maybe we might have been this way. Think about it. And I'll look at it and say, you know, yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, and the one beauty of vote by mail too, and especially this upcoming election, we have a long ballot. The ballot's going to be 2 17-inch pages
with all those
on both
different
sides.
things in it.
So you're going to basically looking at 4 sides that are going to have all the amendments on it. We've got, I think, we're up to about 14 amendments now. There's 2 amendments for Hillsborough County that'll be added on to the 13 amendments that were already there. So it's going to be a long ballot. It's lengthy.
It makes sense to do it at home if you can. And a lot of people standing in line, it's not a good thing for them, especially we live in Sun City Center. A lot of folks can't stand in line.
Yeah.
Although you cover that area pretty well with your various precincts.
And of course, in Sun City Center, we have an early vote site at South Shore Library there too. It's one of our largest early vote sites.
Yeah, I know. It knocks out my Toastmaster meeting site.
There you go. But it's a popular site down there too. And we don't have lines at our sites. That's why, you know, I've gone to a lot of extent to put in enough early vote sites. And then on election day, you know, with 270 polling sites out there, we may see a slowdown. We're not seeing lines of any, you know, large nature by any means.
Since I've already admitted I don't use live voting and haven't for some period of time, if I go into the voting booth, what can I take with me?
Well, you can take a sample ballot with you, that's for sure.
Okay, I can take a cheat sheet.
Yeah, you can take a cheat sheet with you in there. We want you to turn off your cell phone when you come in. You can't phone a friend while you're in the polling
You can't.
site. No, you can't do that.
So much for my friend in the law that gives me all the judges.
Here's, if you receive a vote by mail ballot, you don't receive a sample ballot because you received a real ballot.
Right.
So we tell people that if you decide you want to go vote at a polling site or an early vote site, and we've already sent you a vote by mail ballot, go on my website, votehillsborough.org. You can pull up your specific sample ballot, print it off, and you can take that into the polling site with you because you're going to have to surrender that ballot. If you try and take your ballot with you, you're going to have to surrender that when you come in.
Your predecessor, Earl Leonard, is one of my heroes. I just think Earl is just a great guy, and he really did a lot to make that website really good, given the way it was when he got it. And you've done a lot to go on from there. There's a lot on your website.
There's a tremendous amount of information on the website. There's historical information.
Variety of records, yes.
You know, and we encourage people, go on the website, make sure your information is what you think it is. You know, it never fails, especially at a primary election. people think they're registered in one party. They show up and they're not registered in that party. And then we have to go back and show them their voter registration where they checked this box, and it's a lot easier if you take the time beforehand. And with online voter registration that we have now, you can register online, you can update your address online, you can update your signature because it pulls your signature in off of your driver's license.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's a tremendous amount of information there, and like I said, you can go to our website, you can pull up your information. It's going to tell you where your specific polling site is, and then we've got a page that it takes you to that actually has a picture of your polling site.
Let's go on to the primaries especially, because it's one of my hot buttons. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm really kind of tired of the primary process here in Florida. I look at some of the other states and they're more progressive. Are there any movements towards open primaries? And when I mentioned that to you earlier, you said, which open primaries?
Yeah.
I always thought of it was just if you were not registered independent, you could go in either primary. But that's not necessarily true.
It's not. It's very interesting, but let me back up and tell you that this past year we had the Constitutional Revision Commission, which went around the state and has put these 8 constitutional revision questions on the ballot. And I went to the hearing that they had here in Tampa, and that was probably the #1 thing that was brought up by citizens that spoke to the commission was to open the primaries, because in Florida we have closed primaries. So you must belong to one of the major parties to vote in that party's nomination process. Now, a little confusion there. Somebody that's a no party affiliation or independent, minor party, and there's several minor parties, they can still vote on all the nonpartisan issues.
Right, judges and things like that.
Judges, school board members. And as a matter of fact, this recent primary, we had a judge and a school board member that were elected by 26% of the people, because that's all that showed up to vote.
26%.
So 26% made the selection for the other 74%. But there is numerous primary methods across the country. You do have the open primary, which is just open. You go in, you declare which ballot you want. If you want a Republican ballot, a Democratic ballot, or you want a nonpartisan ballot, but you'll probably pick one of the parties.
You only get to vote on one of them.
That's correct. You only get to vote on one of them. There's other things that are partially open, and that's where the parties allow no party affiliations to declare a party on election day. And those are kind of interesting because they go election by election. So it's not just a blanket. In every election, the no party affiliations get to vote. The party makes that choice. There's also another method that's called the top 2. And everybody goes on the ballot, and whoever the top 2 vote getters are, regardless of party, would move on to the general election.
And they could be in the same party.
They could be in the same party. So there's different methods out there that are being explored. There's a lot of talk about it right now. The end result is this would take a legislative change by the Florida legislature. So there's a lot of talk. Like I said, we'll see what happens. But I think that we really need to know which primary method we think is the best one to go with, too, before we make that decision. Let's be careful what you wish for.
Well, what bothers me, and a lot of people, I am registered with a party. Although I don't much sing their song, I am still registered with that party. And so I go vote in their election or their primaries.
Their nomination.
But I look at who's on the ballot, and anybody that's a moderate might as well go home. You have to be a stark raving this or stark raving that, depending on the party, to get the nomination. You look at the general election, that's what we end up with. Now, I'm going to irritate some of you folks out there, but out of 380 million people in the United States, you mean to tell me that Donald Trump and Mrs. Clinton or Secretary Clinton were the 2 best people to run this country?
Well, Bill, I'll tell you
what. And I'm not asking you to deny it.
There's politics and there's elections. My office runs elections.
I know. And my rant's over. But it just seems to me that somewhere there has to be an adult in the room and change some of these election rules to get more of the people who are registered actually out to vote.
Yeah. And we, we show 840,000 people on the rolls right now. I will tell you that this is a monumental job keeping up with our voters. In Hillsborough County, we'll have 30 to 40,000 of our registered voters move every year.
30 to 40,000?
30 to 40,000. They may move in the county, they may move out of the county, they may move out of the state.
As a percentage, that's pretty high.
It is very high. We're a very transit state here. People move around a lot. So having said that, if somebody's getting ready to move, they've relocated because of a job or something, the very first thing they think of is, oh my gosh, I need to call Craig Latimer and let him know I moved. Thank you.
I could just
we're the
see
last
that.
one on the totem pole that ever finds
Until
out.
it comes time that, what polling booth am I at?
Yeah, so, we'll eventually, we get a lot of them when they go to change their address on their driver's license, and then they give them the opportunity to update their voter registration.
Oh, okay.
But we run a lot of them down through the national change of address through the post office. We get return mail all the time, so we're constantly running that down. So the reason I say that is that there's probably 30 to 40,000 people out there that may be on our rolls that really shouldn't be on our rolls and aren't in our county right now.
And they'll
they're
try
not
to go
voting.
vote somewhere else and it won't work.
Well, no, they will. You can change your address up to election day.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, you can. You can change your address at the polling site on election day.
Oh, so there's no shut-off on
No,
that.
some of them will get remedied by that. A lot of them will get remedied, and the truth of the matter is they're certainly not voting twice. They're not voting in my county,
Right.
in another county. I mean, we see all that statewide with our
What if I
Florida
go
statewide
to
system.
the wrong polling place and I've moved and I say, oh, gee, what do I do now? How do I?
So if you show up at a polling site and they say, they're going to tell you, I'm sorry, this is not your polling site, by your address, they will give you directions and the address of the polling site you need to be at. And that's very important because on election
What
day.
if I've moved across county to the other side of the county now? I don't want to go back over there. Can
No,
they register me now with my proper address, let me vote there?
Okay, so let's say you moved into a new subdivision and you didn't think to call me and update your address.
Right.
And so you go to your neighbor and you say, hey, where do we vote here? And they say, oh, we vote at the park right down the street here at the community center. You can go down to that community center right there as long as you're registered in this state somewhere, and you can change your address and vote a regular ballot right then at that community center.
Oh, well, that makes it pretty reasonable.
Well, don't forget, you also have to show a photo and signature ID too, so you have to verify who you are.
Well, that seems reasonable. I've never understood why you couldn't have driver's license have something about citizenship on there.
They do now.
Do they?
Yeah, with the Real ID Act, it actually notes on the driver's license non-citizens.
So that would be one way of, when you walked in, having something to prove who you are.
Well, first off, when you register to vote in this state, you have to supply a driver's license number or the last four of your Social Security number.
Okay.
That information is then matched. You've also signed the affidavit that says you are a U.S. citizen, you're not a convicted felon, and you haven't been declared mentally incapacitated to vote. So you've signed an oath, and you also have to furnish that information so a match is made. I can tell you that we don't see people show up to vote that aren't legally registered to vote. I will tell you, though, let me tell you the flip side, and we talked about this. If you go to jury duty, one of the questions or the statements on there that you can check a box that says, I'm a non-citizen, so I don't have to do jury duty. And as soon as you do that, the next thing they do is send it to me, and they say, this person says they're a non-citizen, you want to see if they're registered to vote? And that can go one of two ways. Either they are, in fact, not registered to vote, or they are registered to vote, we'll let the judge know.
How about that? You know, it's fascinating to get a picture of what goes on behind the doors. Your office is huge.
It is.
How many people do you actually have working full-time in your office?
Yeah, I only have about 45 full-time employees.
That it?
I will tell you right now, though, right this minute, I have well over 150 employees because we bring on a lot of temporary employees that are doing election preparation work and getting things ready. You know, we're getting ready to mail out 220,000 vote-by-mail ballots, and we assemble all of those at our office. It's all automated, but it still takes a cadre of people to be able to fill the supplies, make sure everything's going on. So yeah, it's including then loading pallets full of ballots onto a moving truck to take to the post office.
What if someone would like to get some of that part-time work? How do they do that, or is it volunteer work, or is there pay that goes with it?
It's great, it is pay, and they can actually go on my website right now at votehillsborough.org, and there's a button on there about how to get involved and be an election worker.
Well, that makes it pretty cool, because a lot of people, you know, this time of year, it's great to pick up some money at least going into the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And you hire about 100, roughly?
Ultimately, we'll bring on about 250 people,
Oh.
and then another 600 people for early voting.
Can I ask what they
And
get
then,
paid?
It varies. It varies between the different positions. It could be 150 to 200 a day, or by the hour, paid by the hour. It just depends on the position.
You say this is about voting, but not about politics.
It's about elections, not politics.
Can I, as a candidate, go to your office and say, who's registered?
Absolutely, it's public record.
So you're responsible for
can-
all of this mail I get?
No, I'm not responsible for that. Well, I am responsible for some of it, because the parties and the candidates have a right to know, for instance, who ordered a vote by mail address. And your information as a voter is public record in this state.
Okay.
We've tried to change that a couple times, but hadn't gotten a lot of success. So we produce a file every month that's every registered voter in Hillsborough County. It's got your name, address, date of birth, party affiliation, and what elections you have voted in. Not how you voted, because we don't know that. That's a secret ballot. But we do know that you voted, and we know that you voted either by mail, early vote, or election day.
And they get that information?
They are entitled to that information by law. What they don't get from us, though, is your phone number and your email address, because we generally don't have that information.
It's interesting that this information, I assume you sell it.
We do not sell it.
Oh, really?
We do not
You
sell
don't
it
make
at
a
all.
charge?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, you can contact the state, and you can get a disc with all 13 million voters on it for free.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I don't think I want it.
Yeah, but, you bring up an interesting point, because we get calls a lot of times with people saying, I can't believe you sold my information. I'm getting all these robocalls.
Well, DMV does, don't
And
they?
I can't answer that.
Oh, you're not
Yeah.
with, it's right. It's about elections, not DMV.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
that.
But, we'll go into their record, and we don't even have a phone number on file for them. But I can tell you where it does come from. Several sources. One of them is the parties. The party keep extensive contact information on people registered in their parties. And there is groups out there that do sell email addresses, phone numbers, and things like that, that they get them from different telemarketing or things that people fill out over the years, and they accumulate those numbers and email addresses.
What do you think are the most important things the public can do to help you in your office?
A couple of things. Number one, check your registration, make sure it's up to date. The better up to date your information is, you're going to walk in and have a great experience on election day.
Okay.
Be informed about the ballot when you come in. I mentioned before, we're going to have a two-page, two-sided, four-sided ballot. If you just walk in on election day, you're going to be there for about 40 minutes reading everything that's on that ballot. So prepare yourself ahead of time. Take the
Know
time
what
with
it
that
is.
sample ballot. Look at it, make your decisions. Bring that sample ballot with you as a guide, and you're going to have a lot better experience. And the last thing is, vote early. If there's any problem at all, you've got 2 weeks to straighten it out, not 2 hours. If you wait till the very last day on election day and there's some issue, it's going to be hard to straighten it out. Come early. We've got 2 weeks of early voting. Don't wait till the last Saturday and Sunday. Come early.
How many languages do you publish the ballot in?
We publish in English and Spanish.
Just two?
And, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that, we fell under the Department of Justice jurisdiction. I think it's been about 40 years ago now. There was a formula, and it happened in a presidential year and had a low turnout. And we have, as you know, we have a large Hispanic population in our community here, and it passed that threshold. So this is second nature for us. We've been printing ballots in English and Spanish for about 40 years now. All of our information about voting is in English and Spanish.
It's been interesting to me. I've always thought it was a bit of a dichotomy. In order to get to be a citizen of the United States, if you come here, You have to demonstrate that you have a command of the English language, or at least a rudimentary command. But to vote here, you don't.
That's true. Well, there's a couple caveats to that, and we've just seen that recently. You know, we've had, from Hurricane Irma, we've had a tremendous amount of Puerto Ricans who are U.S. citizens, who have been displaced a lot to,
And they were
to
born.
our state.
They were born as U.S. citizens.
They were, and they also were educated in Spanish-only schools, so they don't have a grasp of the English language. So that's one situation. The other one is, you're 100% correct. If you come here to be naturalized, generally speaking, you need to be able to speak English.
That's right.
You can, however, petition to have a translator to help you if you're not grasping it. But where I was going with that is that if you get naturalized and you have children under the age of 18, they automatically are naturalized also. And there's no requirement that they had to speak English to be naturalized under you.
I think we need to look at that again. One final thing, and I think that a lot of people are thinking about it, all the Russian influence, the hacking and all of that, has it affected your office at all?
It has not. Caveat. We do a tremendous amount, both cybersecurity and physical security on our office, but there's a couple things that people need to really understand. Number one, the registration system that we have, it is not connected to the tabulation system. The tabulation system is a standalone, what's called an air-gapped server, which means it's not connected to anything else in my office.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. The machines that we have, the tabulators that we have, they are not connected to each other at all on election day. And one of the beauties of the entire country, there's over 10,000 jurisdictions that run elections, and none of them are connected to each other. We're not connected to Pasco County. We're not connected to Pinellas County. None of that's connected. But the most important thing we have going for us is we vote on paper. You can't hack paper. We've always got that ballot. We have to keep them by law for 22 months.
And they can be recounted if they have to.
We can always go back and rescan them if we have to.
I just find it very, very interesting when I think of your office because there's so many things. And I'd really like to talk to you more. We don't have time today, but I'd like to talk to you more about your outreach to vets overseas, active duty, and things of that nature. Because that's kind of fascinating too.
Be more than happy to.
My guest on Spotlight today has been Craig Latimer. Craig is the Superintendent of Elections for Hillsborough County and has done a fabulous job, in my humble opinion, over the time you've been here. Next time you see our friend and both our mentors,
Dr. Leonard.
Earl Leonard, please tell him hello for us.
I'll do that.
I really think he's a great guy, and you were a good pick. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know. And we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, thanks for being with me.
Thank you.